What's going on, Clarence?
Cornmeal.
Let's do it. D-man alright. Whoa. D-man alright. Spicy Mafia. Spicy Mafia. You gotta keep it spicy. If you see a queen, you better wife it. While we little than a lighter, makes things much brighter. So you gotta keep it spicy. You gotta keep it spicy.
Well, all right, this is indeed an honor and a treat. We've got the great George Donnelly with us today on the show. And we've been, I guess, kind of casual friends, acquaintances online, digitally, zapping back and forth as events have transpired over the last few months. But before we get too deep into his new role now at BizDev with Bitcoin ABC, George, thanks so much, man, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure.
Very cool. So in case people are unfamiliar, you played quite a role in the Latin American adoption efforts for Dash, which is its own kind of world, its own subculture within cryptocurrency, and it's not too far removed from some of the goals of Bitcoin Cash. Can you talk a little bit about maybe, what you did with Dash, and without getting too much into the mucky muck, kind of why you came over to Bitcoin Cash recently?
Sure. In March 2018, I started doing some stuff with Dash, some meetups. And then Dash has a treasury system, so I got a proposal through there, I think in May of 2018. And then I started building a team. I started going out, talking to merchants. I knocked on lots of doors, signed up a bunch of merchants, and did events. And so over the course of about 16 months, I think that the whole team, so I eventually put together a team of 80 people.
Wow.
Across 20 cities, 8 countries, 3 continents. And let's see, we onboarded about 1,300 merchants. Thousands of users went through our events and were onboarded. And it was quite an interesting experience. I feel like
your focus was Latin America primarily, and I'm assuming there's a story there about how you wind up, because George Donnelly the name doesn't necessarily strike me as Latino. How do you, if you don't mind me asking, how do you get to Latin America and even begin that journey?
Sure, yeah. Well, I'm originally from the United States. Grew up in the Philadelphia area. Lived in Chicago for a while. I also lived in Japan for a little while. But right after college, I rented a room in Chicago, and the landlord was from Medellin, Colombia. And we became pals, and he insisted I come and visit, and I did. And I really liked it. And so after I did a few years in Japan teaching English, I decided to come here and stay. That was 2001.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I got married, had my son, and yeah, so I've been here a while.
And so you're there. You are in Medellin, Colombia.
Yeah, this is my permanent residence. It has been for a while. Yeah, I was in the U.S. for about a year and a half. Around 2009, 2010, but other than that, I've been here continuously.
Holy mackerel! And so you find Dash and you build up this team. What attracted you to Dash or cryptocurrencies at the time, especially being in Colombia? I can only assume that the two are somewhat related.
Well, I got into crypto because I'm a libertarian. I was running an online libertarian conference in 2010, and somebody donated some Bitcoin to me. And so, it's impossible to be a libertarian around that time. I think enough to find out about Bitcoin. And yeah, so I mean, I want a free world. And so, Bitcoin is a really good vector for that. And Dash, well, after the run up on 2017, I thought, well, finally, maybe we can make some progress on getting adoption. And a friend of mine said, hey, check out Dash. They have a treasury and whatnot. So I gave it a shot, and it worked out for a while.
Yeah, it worked out fairly well, because from what we were hearing on the Bitcoin Cash side of things is that Dash had really sort of locked down places like Colombia and Latin America. I always kind of wondered, how deep it was and how meaningful it was, but it sure was inspiring to see it getting done. And then I guess there was somewhat of a falling out, or maybe your faith in the because Dash has a particular governance model and a way that it behaves. I think it is something that attracts people. That's kind of a selling point, and it's also something that pushes people out. How would you rate? Obviously, I kind of know the backstory a little bit here, so I'm leading the witness. But how would you rate the sort of the governance model moving? Okay, before I get there, how would you rate the Dash governance model? Is it a feature or a bug?
I think that it, like a lot of things in crypto, the model necessarily isn't terrible. It has potential, but like a lot of things in crypto, the problem is the distribution. Due to the Instamine and due to the fact that some people get in early to any coin. There's an insider group, and they have locked up a large portion of the supply, so they can, even though it appears that there is kind of a democracy or a plutocracy there, it's a lot more concentrated than it might at first appear. So you may have 20, 25 people who control enough votes to do whatever they want, and they're all pals. So the model is not necessarily horrible, but the way that it has been implemented, or the way that the coins have been distributed, means that its potential is severely limited.
Yeah, I wonder, because they really did have a kind of electronic cash emphasis, a medium of exchange emphasis, in that I think it got as high as like number 8 by CoinMarketCap, and was doing fairly well, and then all of a sudden just kind of stillbirthed. And I've sort of wondered if that's due to the governance model, and maybe with people like yourself who are motivated to go out and try to help it, but then are ultimately turned off by it. So you made a decision, or it was made for you, or some combination thereof, to leave Dash. Did you know instantly you were going to stay with crypto and move to Bitcoin Cash, or did it take a little while to make that move?
Well, to be honest, I've known Roger for a while, and there was a time there where I just kind of so quietly rooted from the sidelines, like, hey, somebody fork this thing. Like these guys at Core are just not. This is just a non-starter. Like, it has to be forked. And then, so there was a time where I lost patience with that. But when I saw that Bitcoin Cash came into existence, finally, I found that very encouraging. And so, and I knew I could see that in Dash where the project, as time went on, I discovered more and more things that were disagreeable, and I could see that the kind of the political winds were changing against me. And so I kind of knew it was going to happen, and I was kind of tired of it, and so I was already thinking about moving on to Bitcoin Cash. And I did think there was definitely some time there. I thought, well, geez, should I even spend any more time on crypto. Like, is this a
Yeah.
dead end? Maybe I should go, write some more science fiction. Maybe I should, restart my marketing agency and whatnot. But there's some things that I want to do, and I think that crypto is a really good way to get there. And I think Bitcoin Cash is the best way to get there.
And I was really empathizing with you when you were talking about the kind of political wins and the people involved. It really does seem that, I think at first a lot, and I'm not speaking for you, but a lot of us get involved idealistically, and then really all the problems of the outside world kind of come rushing into crypto, and we're kind of dealt some of the same basic problems. And I think that that definitely shakes a lot of people's enthusiasm for it. And I've seen a lot of good folks just capitulate. Just say, I'm done. I just can't take this anymore. So I'm glad you didn't, and I'm glad you moved over to Bitcoin Cash at least. What about Bitcoin Cash attracted you? I mean, there's so many other projects out there. Certainly ones with more juice and more favorable press and bigger communities and so on. Why Bitcoin Cash?
Well, because of Roger. Roger and I are both voluntarists, so I've always admired his work. So that was a big part of it. And another big part was that I want to flip big BTC. I want to be, I'm one of those guys who's like, yeah, Bitcoin, not this. Like, I see there's some BTC maximalists who are like, oh, the rest of you guys are altcoins, and you guys, you're just wasting your time. Like, I don't know. That's not very constructive. But I still feel what I originally felt for Bitcoin, and I feel like Bitcoin Cash is the original vision and has the best chance to make it happen. I don't know. So, like, I see some people on RBTC, treating me like, oh, he's the propaganda machine and what, like as if I'm some kind of corporate lackey. I'm the farthest thing from it. Like, I see that's one of the conflicts I had in Dash was the predominant vibe and the controlling group is very corporate, and a lot of these other coins are very corporate. And like, I'm like a guy on the street, like, I'm like, hey, let's lead a rebellion. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I just don't see another coin like that.
That's really interesting. And your first foray into Bitcoin Cash officially, from our perspective, was Bitcoin Cash Latin America. So just kind of taking what you've learned and some of the team and sort of making a lateral movement over to Bitcoin Cash for the reasons that you explained. But that quickly turned into something else altogether, and you landed knee deep in a super huge debate within Bitcoin Cash now, which has to do with developer funding. And I don't want to, or protocol funding, I should say. I don't want to get into and rehash the infrastructure plan for Bitcoin Cash altogether, the IFP. But I think it stands to reason that your involvement with Bitcoin ABC and where you guys are sort of headed was at least, I don't know how to put it, catalyzed by some of the IFP events. Describe maybe how you go from, just entering the Bitcoin Cash community into becoming sort of the outward face for now anyway, the business development person for its main reference implementation, Bitcoin ABC.
Yeah. Well, I see, here's the thing. Like, if I'm going to go out to the public and I'm going to reactivate the whole team I built, and I had hundreds of people across Latin America in training to join the team, in kind of a freelance capacity or whatever. I'm going to reactivate all of that. I need to them to have, I need there to be a foundation. I can't, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I can't bring them a product that I don't feel 100% confident in. And if the protocol development is not well funded, I feel like that's a problem. And so I think I put it out there on Twitter one day that I was available to consult, because I thought, maybe I can help with this whole thing. So anyway, I don't remember how it happened, but I ended up talking with Amaury, and I just said, hey, we can do X, Y, and Z. And he said, okay, yeah. And then I said, okay, well, am I, like, I would need to be some kind of affiliation, and yeah, sure, you could join the team. And then we just took it from there. I interviewed him. I got everything that he wanted to say. I started turning it into a document. Anthony made contributions, Jason, some other people on the team.
Anthony Zegers, Jason B. Cox, some of the main players in Bitcoin ABC. I'm sorry, keep going.
Mm-hmm. And then, so just over time, we evolved the biz plan document, got to know each other a little better, and it's magically ended up here.
It's changed ABC, and I've heard your answer to what I'm about to ask you, and I really liked it. So I'm going to give you a chance to, because we didn't do any pre-interview, so I'm sort of hitting George with a bunch of different questions that are totally unfair. But I really liked your answer when I saw it either online or I heard you answer someone who asked. But I think a lot of the criticism leveled at ABC was that why wasn't something like a George Donnelly and a business plan and a fundraiser, why wasn't that done years ago?
Well, I think the bottom line is that everybody in ABC is already working, up to the crown of their heads, and they needed somebody to step up, and I stepped up. I know that some people tried to help them before, and surely made some important contributions. But for whatever reason, this was the right time, and I stepped up, and I've been able to make a small contribution.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of the investors, and this goes for me too, didn't realize what Amaury and protocol developers did. So we were sort of, and again, I'm just as guilty as anybody else, of promoting the new thing, the shiny thing, the application developments, the cool wallets, the this, the that tools, which are not unimportant, but at times, considering finances were finite and dwindling as bear market started to hit after the 2017 run up, where they were literally just throwing money everywhere. Those precious resources were basically pushed not towards protocol funding, as far as I understand it, and were put out to the I guess the verb I use, or the adjective I use more often than anything, is sexier projects, ones that are sort of easier to sell, whereas protocol developers, rather, the implementation, the actual client, is sort of the plumbing, the freeways that everything runs on, that everybody kind of takes for granted, just sort of figures it's always going to be there. And through a series of conversations with Amaury and a few others about code rot, code debt, backporting, and just the myriad of issues that come with a multi-billion-dollar project that's being used around the world, I started to kind of understand, okay, well, this is going to need some attention at some point. And what's really nice about what you've done is that you're allowing Amaury, at least from what I can see from the outside, to get back to doing what he does best, which is where we want him, coding, overseeing things, reviewing changes, sort of overseeing the upgrades, and you can get out there and kind of do the, shaking babies and kissing hands and putting up the actuarial numbers. So I'm not sure if I have a question there, but is that kind of what the vision is for now for Bitcoin ABC, to kind of let you handle the public relations, for lack of a better phrase?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Yeah, we've discussed, that I would handle biz dev and some PR stuff. And a lot of my, I think my focus right now is just to get us funded, because if we're not funded, then I have to be frank, I think things are going to be kind of similar to the way they were before.
Right.
Yeah.
And you helped put out a pretty explicit plan. It's the first of its kind that I'd seen for Bitcoin Cash, in that you have deliverables, you have timetables, goals, all sorts of different levels to participate in, ways to fund it. How important is something like that for a potential investor?
Well, I think it shows seriousness. We all of us, everyone, literally everyone on the team, and some people who aren't even on the team contributed to this. So this was an enormous process that happened behind the scenes that took weeks. And so I think that it communicates a great level of seriousness, that we are thinking about the future, that we are revealing information that other people can use to hold us accountable. And so I think that's extremely strong for investors. You don't see that a lot in the crypto space. You see a lot of fly by night stuff. Hey, we got a great idea. Oh, where's your plan? No answer, right? But here, if we are fully funded, and if November rolls around and we haven't delivered something that's on the timeline for November, then the people can point, investors and donors and others in the ecosystem can point to it and say, what happened here? And that's not always something you can get.
Yeah, and it's good to see. I think it's a very healthy thing for Bitcoin Cash, and I'm noticing other nodes now, competitors, and even those who are a little bit more friendly with ABC are emulating that and kind of giving their versions of it. So I think that's only a positive thing. How's the fundraising going? I know you guys have a Flip Starter campaign that just began, and when I last checked the fundraising sort of broader progress bar, it looks like you guys are about 40% of the way.
Yeah, I think we're right. We've been between 43 and 44, depending on kind of the market price, and we have definitely gotten some donations. I think we might have gotten between 10 and 15 BCH total, in addition to some, a sizable amount of funds that came in separately. But I would say overall, it's been a little anemic. But I'm optimistic that because it takes time to ramp this up and to have people's attention. And we're competing, we're competing with tax season. We're competing with the coronavirus, the depression.
What a time to start this, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm optimistic. There are 2 weeks left, give or take. And I think that anything can happen. I'm working every day, all day long on this, and so I'm optimistic.
Do you think like there's a whale miner or someone in the back that's going to ultimately make it happen, or do you have even, I guess, more plans going forward?
Well, I think it's possible. Um, I don't know. By only time will tell. As far as other plans for funding, I think it's important that people understand that basically funding Bitcoin ABC is the same thing as funding, or very similar to most any other free and open source infrastructure software project. Like an Nginx or an Apache or Linux, FreeBSD. And, financing any free and open source software is hard, but especially infrastructure is challenging because there really isn't a business model in terms of generating independent income.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've seen some people say, oh, you should just start X, Y, or Z business. Okay, well, maybe we should, but if we do that, then we're not going to be developing Bitcoin Cash, the Bitcoin Cash full node software. Yeah, we could all get part-time jobs at bagging groceries at the supermarket. Not going to be spending that time developing Bitcoin Cash, so it's not really a solution.
And has the community reaction been supportive in terms of the general feeling towards the pivot in ABC towards an open fundraiser and appealing to the community?
Oh, yeah, there has been a lot of support. I have received quite a few messages, saying that it, good work. But in RBTC, there have been some people who want to paint it as a propaganda machine, or that I'm a PR spinster, or whatever. But the bottom line is that people asked Bitcoin ABC to demonstrate its value, to engage, to give information, to create a plan and a budget, and a timeline, and that's what we're doing. And so, if that's not enough, well, let us know what else you want, and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, there are a lot of interesting ways to get involved with Bitcoin ABC now that I don't ever remember, just by virtue of the fact that, again, they were doing dev things rather than business development. So it's really interesting. In a 26-page document you put out, that ABC put out, is an interesting read. But I like what you're doing now, or whoever runs the social media aspect of ABC is putting it out in kind of bite-sized chunks. The deliverables, some of the mempool ideas, sort of owning the code, quote unquote, all that stuff. Is that on purpose?
Yeah, that's definitely an important part of the plan. I would say Anthony and I are the ones who are most putting in the work on that part. And, the idea is to take the big, long business plan and break it down into pieces so that people can, consume it bit by bit and give us their feedback and share their thoughts. And, so that we can see how else, we can serve the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem.
And I remember kind of an ominous sign a few weeks back, in that Tyler Smith, a developer in the community, actually left due to funding issues, he said, and some other things. But he definitely cited funding and the lack of stability there. Is there a worry that this kind of funding, if it doesn't come through, you're just going to start even shedding more developer talent, which I think is kind of obvious in terms of the cascading effect as far as what impact that might have?
I think it's definitely a concern. I wish Tyler all the best over at Ava. It's an interesting project, but if we could have kept him working on BCH, it would have enabled us to make progress a lot faster. How many other people, key,
Right.
valuable contributors, have we lost because of the delays? Like Bitcoin Cash has existed now for 2.5 years, and I see people talking about, well, we need to have X number of full node implementations, and there's to be some level of equity among them, and I don't necessarily disagree, but at the same time, like, I don't think that a quota system is going to get us to flip BTC and onboard tens, hundreds, thousands of millions of people to realize the vision of Bitcoin Cash as peer-to-peer electronic cash for the world. So, I mean, the time is now. It's, we can, like, some people keep saying, oh, we need to push things back, we need more time to debate and consider ideas. Like, no. Like, this is something that when I was going out and doing adoption, here in Latin America, sometimes people would say to me, well, George, obviously your plan has a small flaw there. You need to sit back and really get a perfect plan first before you go out there. And, no, sir. There is no perfect plan. And that's why in the organization that I built, I said, look, there's always going to be mistakes, but we have to step out and find out what's out there and what people say and what people think and how they react in order for us to get the next piece of information that's going to permit us to evolve our plan, But if we're just sitting here twiddling our thumbs, engaged in endless debates with pseudonymous or anonymous people on Reddit, I don't know how that's going to get us to number one on CMC, or how that's going to get us out of this hash rate hole that we're in, or how that's going to get us tens of millions of new users over the next 2 to 3 years.
And this really is, I think, the global downturn in world economies. I mean, this is what everybody was kind of, and it almost sounds too ghoulish, but was sort of waiting for, as far as people maybe turning to crypto or looking to crypto or for alternatives to traditional finance. So I definitely agree with you. The time is now, and so let's get there then. Let's people who want to donate. You don't have to be a whale. You don't have to be an institutional investor or corporate mucky muck. You're looking for anybody who wants to contribute, and I know that. How can they get involved? Where can they find how to get involved and all that good stuff?
So anyone can visit fund.bitcoinabc.org, and you'll see various options there. So the first one is, if you have a small business or a small project, you can purchase, a project sponsorship. Or if you just want an individual sponsorship, we have that too. We have some funding buckets for the mempool overhaul project and for the take code ownership project, both of which are very, very interesting, and a general funding bucket, just general scaling work. We also have for Bitcoin Cash businesses, exchanges, miners, etc. You can schedule an appointment with me to receive a personalized presentation, and so we can discuss how we can better serve you. And then the last option is the Flip Starter that is happening right now.
Very, very cool. And I know you've got some plans coming up here as we head towards the May upgrade. Do you want to talk a little bit about what ABC intends to do in terms of communicating with the public, with you and Anne-Marie, and some of the ideas you guys are floating around?
Well, we're publishing a new article every day about our plans for the future of Bitcoin Cash at read.cash / at Bitcoin_ABC. You can find that link at fund.bitcoinabc.org as well. The network upgrade is happening May 15th. One of the most notable changes is that the chained transaction limit is going to be doubled from 25 to 50. So that is the ability to spend and respend multiple times from a single UTXO in between blocks, which is useful for things like meetups, poker, online poker games, things like that. And I think right now we're waiting to see what's going to happen with the fundraiser. I think we're going to do a live stream, Ask Me Anything, probably sometime next week, maybe the week after. I'm not sure. Morty and I will do that, and we'll be taking questions. So stand by for the scheduling on that, and just working, every day to advance Bitcoin Cash vision.
Very cool. Well, this has been the Stalwart implementation. Arguably, the team that brought Bitcoin Cash into existence. And at the very least, they deserve a second look if you haven't already given it to them. And George, where can they find you and kind of keep up with what you're doing?
So it's good to follow me on Twitter. I'm at George Donnelly on Twitter. So that's all one word, DONNELLY. I'm tweeting every day things of interest to people who want to see Bitcoin Cash grow, who want to see more liberty in the world, and who want to really do something big, because I am on the path to doing something big, freedom, liberty, individual liberty, and particularly in the developing world. I think that there is an enormous opening because of all the financial exclusion that's happening for the majority of the population of the planet. It's a tremendous opportunity for libertarians and for Bitcoin Cash. It's like in 1984 where they said the last hope are the proles. Well, I think our last hope is the developing world. I left the United States about 23 years ago now, and there's a good reason for that. And a lot of people, I think, can see very clearly what's happening in the first world. It's the developing world where we really have our shot.
Fascinating. And again, we are definitely rooting for you. We'll have links to everything that George talked about, from read.cash to the fundraiser and how to get involved. George, again, man, I know I said I would keep you half an hour, and I've definitely taken over that. Thanks so much.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, man, we really appreciate it, and best of luck to you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Edward.